Okay, so this is the Heritage and Events Committee held on the 13th of November 2024, starting at 6 o'clock. We have got a lot to get through, so some of the items are just to note, and maybe if there's discussions, if we can try and keep to the point, and then we hopefully. So 39624, apologies.
From councillors Brindle, Peters.
Right, 39724, the minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed. Committee happy with the minutes? And can we record them as an accurate record of the meeting? Yeah?
I wasn't here.
Okay. I'll take that as a yes. Right. Does anyone have any disclosable pecuniary interest? Uh, 39924, financial report and other information. Ask Alan if he could briefly present the financial report for us.
As committee members may or may not be aware, we've changed the format of the reporting to be a little bit more analytic than just a whole lot of numbers against budgets and some explanation. So I've just continued that when doing this report. This report is to the 30th of September because it was too early to do all the analysis that's required if I'd used October information to get this out. I think, again, the format is exactly the same. We've got commercial activities and non-commercial activities. So I've broken down the report into the commercial activities, all higher fees, we only budgeted for 6 months of all higher fees in 24-25. We still slightly below budget. Our budget was 19,000 for 6 months, 38,000 for the year. But I think what we've got to bear in mind is that there hasn't been any growth. Our costs have grown, have increased. The cost of electricity, the cost of heating, business rates, etc. And all those costs have been going up, but our whole income has been remaining quite static. I'm not going to spend any more time talking about that because I think that we've got a separate agenda item on all higher fees later on in the meeting, so we can talk about that there. In terms of bar trading, I think the hospitality industry has changed quite significantly. And that reflects in the bar trading information that I've presented. You'll see that we've got bar sales in 22-23, they were 52,000. They collapsed to 23-24 to 34,000. And at the moment, they're 19,564 for a half a year. But even if that doubles, that will go up to 38,000, which is a lot lower than it was in 22-23. Our cost of sales has improved. Our gross profit percentage has improved. In 2022-23, it was 49%, dropped to 41%, and it's returned up to the 49%. We stock takes more often, so these figures are a little bit more accurate and indicate that. So again, there's nothing too much to worry about. The commercial partnerships, I think quite a lot of time talking about this at the previous meeting. Commercial partnerships are quite risky for us. They can work or they can't work. I think we've had some instances where they haven't worked, and the steer from a financial perspective is that we actually stay away from partnership events. You know, the hall hire with the bar income is a more sustainable and safer option for us, and it helps us control our costs. So the analysis that I've done, and I think I presented most of this at the last meeting, but the analysis that I did recently, for example, we promoted a disco after one of the ABBA concert. We spent £150 on that, but you know the additional income we generated was around about £70 from the till system. It's never going to be sustainable. So again, veer away from those type of events. In terms of the mayor and civic events, these are very standard. So I've set those out. Mayor making is way below budget. Mayor civic reception is below budget. The mayor's civic church service is slightly above budget by £25. So not too much sleep to lose there. The civic events, the D-Day, is the final cost in our books at the moment is £1,301. The Battle of Britain, I haven't found any costs for that, but there possibly could be some sitting somewhere. And then the education activities, there is an educational report in the agenda. So again, I think it's really just identifying those income sources and ensuring that we're maximising that income for what we've got. The conclusion that I put into this report is quite key. I think we've reduced the size of the heritage and events team. That was a decision taken at corporate services. It's come down quite significantly. So we really have to use our staff time optimally, so the staff are spending the time doing a whole lot of activities, and it's really a matter of weighing it up as to what should they be spending time on versus, what are our priorities as a committee, and it should reflect that. So we do a lot of activities, but they're not necessarily, come through this committee as an initiative. It's very important that we consider that. The second matter associated with that is that we have to balance our community outreach. We have summer programs, we have school programs, we have all sorts of things, but we have to balance that with our affordability and again our staff scale. The third key thing coming out of this is we have to look at our all higher rates and concessions. And again, there's a separate paper on that later on in the meeting. And I think our event planning overall and communication of events from a financial perspective, we need to improve that, and this is part of that process to do that. And that's really all I have to say on that particular matter.
Okay, any comments or questions? Debbie?
Yeah, I completely agree. There needs to be discussions around where staff time is focused and community outreach. All of the issues you're right there at the bottom. To that end, a couple of things really. The first one is, do we have an overall budget for the committee?
At the moment, we don't, because we've got to plan out some of the events. But I think what we've got to do is we've got to be a little bit more specific as to what those budgets are. So at the moment, we set aside money for the summer holiday program or the Whitsun program, and it's really understanding what does that really, what does that entail? Because do we want to spend money, having fairgrounds on the marketplace on the Friday live event, for example? That's quite expensive. Do we, is that the whole question? The whole thing is there a better way to spend the money? And I think that needs a little bit more oversight and interrogation, I think.
Yeah, I agree. The second point I would make is, and this Doug's always going on at me about this in particular, is a diary for events. We don't know what events are coming up and when, and we keep having events just pop up out of nowhere. I think we need, as councillors, as a committee, we need much better control over that. I believe there was a system put in place to do that, wasn't it? That hasn't really been instigated, is that fair?
I think what we did is we had those event sheets. I think it was approved in June, July. It was one of those things there. It was like a template of what, the marketing and everything else that had to happen around that. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened. But I think what we've done is because it's very difficult from a financial perspective to report to this. The reason I had to do all this digging down is because I've got to do a budget forecast and do a budget for next year. But I think what we're trying to do is just get a proper sign off of it. So part of the kind of resolutions and later on that we'll discuss is that the town clerk has said she wants to sign off every single event, regardless of what it is, so that she's aware of it, what it is, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and who the target market is. And that we implemented. So I've done a check through the diary between now and March next year. The only events we have is around our Christmas switch on. There's a Narnia trail, or something to do with Narnia, I've forgotten what it is, and there's a children's disco. And those are the only events that are planned at the moment. So any future events would need to be signed off by the town clerk going forward.
That's really good. I think there needs to be more transparency and clarity over which events we're actually putting on. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, so we're happy to note the report. Yeah. Next item, 400, 24 is update on mayoral and civic events. Please. So we've had the report come out of that, haven't we? Is there anything to add to that?
No, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that have happened since the last meeting.
Okay, do you have anything to add or questions? I'd just like to say we need to thank Councillor Peters and McDonald for their efforts for the Remembrance Day grave. And yeah, I mean, I didn't attend it, but by all accounts, it was very successful. So well done for that. And I think that's a good way forward as well for next year.
Funnily enough, thanks, Chair. I was just looking at a list of things that we've got to improve on for next year. So there's a big programme of tweaks rather than improvements. I'll call them tweaks. But we've arranged for a meeting with the town clerk and Vic and Kate as well, so that we can sum up what we did well, what we didn't do so well, and then we can report that back to this committee properly once we've discussed it, so that, you know, if there's any further input, it can be done well in advance of next remembrance, because we know it's going to happen next year. And one of the things that did sort of come up as a question mark in my mind on that was we were doing stuff without having really any idea what the spend might be, which goes back to your point. You know, so we were, you know, and we're all passionate people, so we all get a project and then think, right, let's do X, without having any knowledge of what the parameters are money wise. So I think that's really important. Thanks.
Stuart.
I just reiterate your thanks. I think last night you received it, and yeah, I think as long as we minute the thanks, I think that needs to be done. Just on the town council thing, it's minor point in terms of we all went down after. I did miss being near the dais to take the eyes of the participants, which was something. I'm not saying we want to be on top of the dais, but when you're a councillor and you know the community, when you see the people walking by and you catch their eyes, it's very nice to have that engagement. And I just felt we lost that by being part of the parade as it went down to the end.
Okay.
Harry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, again, I echo your comments. I think it's not too strong to say that Mac in particular, but also Vic, saved us from a public hammering, really. They did so much work. My concern is, with all due respect to both of you, I do not, or I would not like to see you two doing that much work again next year. With regards to the finance, I think that's a good point. Again, we need more councillor input and more input generally into the event. It cannot be councillors running these things, albeit via a working group. It needs to be officers, and we need to make that time available, which comes back to the first item on the agenda on what we're planning and how we're doing it.
I think the problem is that the Royal British Legion here was organised. Am I right? Have always organised.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about the one that's gone. I'm talking about next year.
Yeah, I know, but the reason it was done this year is because they weren't able to do it. So Matt and Vic took over. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a
I accept that, but that wasn't really my point. The point was about more more officer input. Officers should lead rather than councillors. That's my point.
I think in response to that, I think that's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
This year was very different, and we kind of knew it was in the run-up with RBL folding and their reticence to be able to give us any correct answers to questions that we'd asked at the beginning of the year. And David will bear witness to how much we asked and how often we asked and how much we were promised and didn't get. The reason that I did all that ridiculous amount of paperwork was so that we could hand it over to the council officers. And Kate in particular, who did come in at the 11th hour, is very aware of, you know, what she wants to pick up and actually what she wants to add to it, which is fine. So it was done with the purpose of making it user friendly, because actually what we didn't realise was for years the RBL had been doing this pretty much off the cuff. You know, we did it like that last year and somebody remembered we did it and that was it. There was nothing written down. So, you know, I take your point, but I think next year the council will be in a much better place to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I will say that now we're in a situation where officers can pick up an operational document and work with it. We had nothing. It was almost at the 11th hour and we wouldn't have even been delivering this event this year if the Royal British Legion hadn't gone into administration. It's always been their event. The council have never been involved to that degree. It's been really frustrating to get any information. There's nothing documented, and sadly, the person who had all the knowledge passed away just prior to last year's remembrance. So it's been a huge. The reason we lent on you, Mac, is your experience being ex-forces, etc. We didn't have those skills to prepare that operational document. Already, Kate Bradley, the new civic officer, is booking people for next year's event because of the document that you've produced, which is fantastic. So hopefully we'll be in a better place next year.
Thank you. So are we happy just to note the update for that? Yeah?
Sorry, I had a couple of points. I have two things. Do you want feedback for the event now, or is that preferred as an email? I don't know how to. You get the feedback. What sort of best, like feedback-wise, like for councillors to give feedback of specifically remembrance? How would you like that given?
No.
We're going to organise a debrief meeting.
Okay.
The town clerk will be present, and the officers, and hopefully you, Councillor MacDonald and Peters, and that would. So if you could be there by email, if you want to attend that meeting.
I don't want to take everyone's time up now.
Then we can actually
tweets as well. I like that.
there is a debrief thing intended for that. Town clerk was asked.
The other thing was, I might have just misread it wrong, maybe I'll get my calendar wrong. The agenda item is to upcoming events for 24-25. Are we talking just to the end of this year? Because the agenda pack stops at like December, so I don't know why it says 2025.
It's only because it's the May of the year, but there's no civic events.
From December until May.
Yeah. The only real civic events that we can talk about now going forward is we've introduced the flag policy, so they will be raising the flags between that time, Commonwealth Day, etc., etc. Also, ceremonial full council is within the civic agenda, and that's in February. But apart from that, it's one of those troughs of the civic calendar.
Okay.
Right, so we're all happy to note that as an update.
Sorry, not trying to copy some.
Fix not here, mate.
Yeah. Okay, right, so we'll move on to 40124, update on town and partnership events. We've all had the report. Does anyone have any questions or comments to make on that?
Just on
Yeah.
I know we're talking about where we're going to spend the office time, but the feedback and the different type of people we get for the Heritage Open Days weekend is something I think we should be mindful for in setting our priorities, because I think our ability to participate in that and vary our offer does yield a different type of visitor coming to the town. And it's great that now we've got Katie and David have done it for a few years and appreciate that side of it, and they're looking to develop different offers.
Just add to that, but I would say, as Stuart is well aware, there was a period in the last decade when Heritage Open Days were almost non-existent in Thetford because we didn't have anyone coordinating the heritage assets within the town. Tina started by bringing that more in-house, so we had more control over coordinating that programme. And Katie has taken it on in recent years. If we was to make a decision in terms of only focusing on ourselves and what we have to offer for Heritage Open Days, it would be vastly less appealing than it is now. We have feedback from the Heritage Open Day Association, if that's the right term, that we coordinate and offer something really well planned in Norfolk. It always holds quite an extensive section of their brochure, which goes out county and regionally. And we do attract a lot of visitors from other areas of the surrounding region, because people like to do various different activities, different years, and tick off the box. So they can show that we do actually attract a lot of visitors to Thetford. So I think it's important, but it's obviously up to councillors whether they want officers to continue to have that wider focus of coordinating the town plan.
Yeah, yes, Mal.
I was just going to add to that. We're quite lucky in Norfolk in that we're one of the only counties that actually has a Heritage Open Days committee that organises the events for the whole, or collects all the events for the whole of the county. Most others don't. So, you know, that's a real plus to us. And, you know, particularly when I think we're looking for, you know, anything we can get in the way of tourism, it's something I don't think we should be in too much of a hurry to dismiss.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments, questions? So we're happy to note that as an update. Yeah, thank you. Right, 40124, update on town partnership events 2024 to 25, which again has come out. So we've got the past events.
That's what we've just done.
Oh, no,
We've done that one,
within- yeah,
sorry.
within that one, yeah.
Oh, education, that's it. Is that our update on the education projects? Which again has all come out in the project. Has anyone got any comments or questions about that? Yeah.
Just wanted to get a sense of the education officer. I know her time that we need is split across events and education. Do you have a sort of sense of how much time you spend on each?
It varies within the brief that you see in this particular report. There's very few school visits.
Yeah.
In the next week, she had one this afternoon. She's got another one Thursday. She's got two next week. It comes in peaks and troughs. It's very much dictated to by schools. We've had a lot of cancellations from schools since September because they've just been channeled in different directions. Thankfully, they're now trying to factor them in over the next couple of weeks before we hit the Christmas break. So it is a bit fluid in terms of that, but that's why we extended her brief to be education and family projects, not just education liaison officer, because we realised that there was more to do. So she's now developing other areas such as you know, the family activities, the family projects where we can get more less.
My impression was that her role was split somewhat across sort of event side of it as well as the educational side.
She supports other events, obviously, but that.
Just trying to get a sense of sort of, does it just out each month, did you say, or is there is it expected to spend so much time on X or Y?
So what we're looking at in terms of we've just had new contracts, we've had a whole HR review. We look at our staff members now with primary focus and collective focus. So Amber's primary focus would be to develop education and family projects. And I would say that would take up 75% of her contracted 30 hours. And then the other hours, if she's got some downtime, and you could equate that to, we've just been talking about Kate Bradley, the civic officer, the next 3 months is very much a civic low. And she would be then drafted in to help other members of the team with certain activities. So as a manager, I have to manage those peaks and troughs for various different employees. But I would say it's difficult to split in terms of, I can't say that it's 50% education, 40% family projects, and 10% of collective responsibilities, because it could differ from week to week, month to month. but her primary focus is to develop schools' education programs as well as family projects. That's her brief. What we probably need to do, that's come out of here, we need to have a more detailed focus of what we do, rather than just report on specific school visits. We need a more detailed report of what Amber's doing. But again, she would have played a big part in the Heritage Open Days and the Heritage Festival, but that's specifically not one of her classified primary focus, that's Katie's, but she would support Katie as part of her collective responsibilities. I'm not sure whether I make myself totally clear, but
I would assume it is, because I think, and it probably touched on the next agenda point that we'll talk about a bit more, I imagine, but sort of like she's going to liaise with Katie and yourself and other things. We've got sort of big events coming up, for example, the Day, I mean, you see, there's going to be working with her to align what she does.
so something,
Yeah, I just wanted to guess.
something like VE Day, as with D-Day. D-Day, Katie and Amber were very much the front of the focal officers in those events. And again, VE Day next year would be very much an area that she would support Katie. That's more Katie's brief, although I would classify VE Day as bordering on the civic agenda. We will talk about that in a minute, because we need to talk about town events.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we're happy to note that as an update. Yeah. Right, 40324, the programme of events for the 2025-26 budget year, which you've all had. So that programme events is important, as we need to confirm this before the budget setting process.
So could I? Sorry.
So we've got the possible events there, but obviously they will depend on the budget, won't they, which we haven't got round to doing. So
Yeah, so Alan and I had a conversation around for Alan to try and format some kind of budget going forward to be presented to councillors, and that has to be adopted by January. So we're up against time, as usual in these matters. So what I've tried to do here is the givens in terms of the first two, mayoral events and civic events. They are almost set in stone. They are what the civic agenda is and the mayoral agenda. That's not going to change year to year, apart from under civic events next year as a special anniversary in terms of VE and VJ Day, as we did D-Day last year. The following year, they will be taken out, and it will just be Battle of Britain Remembrance Concert, and now the Remembrance Parade as well as the reception. In terms of town events, we have in our terms of reference, we do state that we have to plan a minimum of 4 town events a year. My suggestion in this document is that because the conversations around VE Day and the date it is, the 8th of May, is so close to what we classified as one of our town events in terms of Whitsun last year, that I think we're going to be taking on too much. Staff time and dedication to those kind of big events is huge. So I would advocate that we only do 3 events because the VE Day celebrations, from what I understand from councillors' suggestions, it's going to be a large event. That's if we decide to do that. Again, we've got an agenda item on that later. So I've taken the liberty to suggest that we do 3 big events, knowing that VE Day will be another one. So that gives us some semblance around those kind of civic and town events in terms of heritage and events programmes.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Terry, you have something?
Yeah, I think it probably is a good idea to trim back on town events, bearing in mind VE Day. What concerns me, and as you rightly say, David, is that VE Day is roughly 6 months away now, I think. Why has nothing been done? Why are we so late on this? I mean, this is a day that we've known about. Well, I'll say this only sort of semi-seriously since 1950 or something. We knew that date was coming up, Why have we not been addressing this sooner? That's my issue with it.
Okay.
Doug, then Matt.
I think you're going to respond on that, so if you want to go ahead.
I think I can respond on it.
Okay, good.
Because we discussed it on the September meeting. So, and we said we would put a working group together. Didn't have an October meeting. So where we are.
And then the working group was taken up by all the stuff we remember.
So, so the working group, and we did meet, and we've had the, sit down and discuss exactly what we want. The trouble is, we're now discussing it for the first time, and this is the first occasion, and this shows the slow speed at which we sometimes work by waiting for the next committee to come along, and it's something I think is quite frustrating. But yeah, I do take your point that we didn't actually say we were going to do something until September.
Could I also add, and this does flag a flaw in the process of having approval by committee all of the time. In the past, we have delegated authority to a working group of councillors. So councillors will still get that approval authority, but they will be specifically working on. However, in terms of VE Day, the conversations that we've had in the working groups has led us to a large scale event, which could never have been sanctioned outside the full committee or even full council, as you will find out in the agenda items time. So I think there has been some issues. We have done some work on it. Committee has discussed what they would like to see. Vic has been very much a lead in that because he was the one that came to committee. It's sad he's not here tonight. So I understand your frustration, Terry. You haven't been a member of the committee, so you haven't been aware of those conversations necessarily. But we have done some work. VE Day.
I read the minutes.
Yeah. Well, then.
And it does ignore the fact that we've known about this for so long. Started it, due recognition. We need to start that a lot earlier. And I think this is a lesson to be learned with further events.
But we did, and we haven't made those decisions as to whether it's a large scale or a small scale event.
I still don't see why that couldn't have been done earlier.
So, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry. I definitely agree. I really tried to make that. I just am a little bit frustrated because I think at last meeting I asked for like a timetable of, okay, what have we got planned so you can start putting them in the calendar? And we've got a list which is a bit hard to navigate and I struggle to understand, and it's only just come. And so I feel like I thought that was coming much earlier. So I feel like I'm not fully prepared and got my head into what events I plan still, which is a bit frustrating. I'm trying to get into it. The other thing is we're getting, to me, it was a bit circular, and I might miss something, but we've got sort of budget spends here and events here, but like, what is our budget? What was it last year? I've not got anything like that to compare against. So I feel like I'm trying to make information, make decisions in the dark at the moment. And I don't know if it's just that I've missed something or I've not been proactive on looking at something, but I don't feel like I have the information I need at the moment, which is frustrating.
Carlo, you need to say something.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make a couple of points in regards to the organization of the working groups. We've been going around this issue, whether from Remembrance Day, that the way it was organized, how the group was working, whether it's going forward to VE Day. I am part of the group with Matt and Vic. I haven't been as present as they are, so credit to them. They've done the heavy lifting. Much to Mark in the Remembrance, and now Vic is really pushing forward with organizing VE Day. I think we found ourselves this year is very unique for a set of circumstances we weren't counting on. We certainly weren't counting with the issue of demolition. So that's been discussed and there's no point in repeating it. But it kind of threw a curveball that we as a council, council officers, staff, had to organize something credible, safe face with the public on the top of the name. Obviously, because we are the same working group, and this was about, working groups are about people volunteering as councillors to be part of them. There's no enforceability or obligation to be part of it. I put my hand up together with Mark and Vic, say, yeah, we'll work on this together with the officers and we'll do our best. And they certainly did. All credit to them. I just kind of cruise by. And I hope to be more hands-on. And I'm in a bit of a bittersweet spot because I'm going to be mayor next year. So I have all the interesting things running well. So there's no doubt about it that I want whatever events, even if the V-Day is still going to be under Chris Mayorship, but it's a matter, I'm there to support him, and VJ Day after that, I'll have to take on. But I have all the interest on things running well. However, I do understand, and I think people need to realize that the same working group it needed to deliver remembrance, and now needs to deliver the next two, the same people, with the limitations that obviously we are councillors, not full-time employees of the council, but we're doing this on our spare time. If there are more councillors that want to get involved and task get distributed more evenly, then maybe we can push things forward. I understand that waiting for council approval, for committee approval is an issue, because we don't always have committees, which sets us back. If we could have done it in September, October, great. We're meeting in November. We don't do the calendar for the meetings. We follow whatever meeting calendar we're given by the council, and this is the ones we have. They've been fixed nearly a year in advance. We have to work with the states, not of our own choice. Personally, I'll speak for myself, for one of my colleagues, but we don't get to choose those dates. Those dates are fixed on the calendar. We have to work around them. As a point, we did meet. We had a bit of a discussion, but then we paused everything. Because remembrance was more, I'm not saying there is one more important than the other event coming up. It's not about which one is important, but it was substantially more important that we got it right. And that's because we had so many issues in the past, plus deletion, dismantling and everything. They took on the broad of the work that wasn't theirs. So first of all, my thanks go to Mark and Vic as my colleagues in the working group. Secondly, they've done a lot. We can't really expect them to do a whole lot more, even though we will to them, that I'm sure they would like to do more, because that's the kind of people they are. But you are right, this is something that the council, the admin and the staff needs to take on. Luckily for us, they've done so much work that they put it all on paper, build us up a map of what to do next year, should we have any similar issues with that. Now, that releases us to focus on events going forward. Yeah, you are right. They are 6 months away, so we need all the help we can get. It's easy to criticize, but we have to understand that we're limited to what we can do with the time we have. Thank you.
Hang on, Doug, I think you wanted to say something.
No, I can wait.
Yeah, just very quickly, my criticism was not the working groups at all in any way, shape or form. That's not where my criticism lay. And all I can do is just thank you for the hard work we've done. Honestly.
Mark and Vic, they pushed this forward and they got it done, and that's all credit to them.
Sorry, Stuart, did you want to say something?
Picking up Doug's point that, we haven't got the budget, because the budget process is not set. There are some guidelines on there in what the current budget is. And we've mentioned that these are similar things that we've delivered in the past. So I think there's a good feel for what we're proposing. Those numbers, will give you a ballpark number of what the budget is. But until the budget's set, obviously that might constrain what we can do.
There is a difficult issue here in that if we don't do the budget first, it doesn't really matter what the event is. So as an example, when we had D-Day last year, as a relative new council, we agreed that we either go big or don't do something wishy-washy in the middle. When we came up with a plan and it came out, and it came to the rest of the group, everybody thought, well, actually, that's not enough now, we want more. So we put more effort into something, and it was all last minute. It was very last minute doing it then. And that was because of this time lag. But also, we hadn't worked out whether it was a big project, big money, or small project, small money. Now, I can feel pretty much the same's going to happen to VE Day, because we've gone into it a little bit frightened that we're going to come out small and everyone's going to go, well, that's not big enough, because it's a great big event.
That's true.
So we've gone big. We've gone big with no budget idea. Now, so this isn't a criticism of the way we've done it. It's just a fact that we're a small council with big aspirations. And I think that's the truth between the officers and the councillors. We're always pushing for more, but actually, very early, we need to give Alan the grounding and say, we want to go big on VE Day. What money have we got?
How
for
we
the
can
year.
go, yeah.
And then we can work within it.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, we're always going to have this little bit of, bit expensive, we should have known, we didn't do. It's because we're always catching up with the next event, you know, just like we had a bit of an unfortunate with D-Day, then Remembrance, then we're always a little bit behind the drag curve. And that's my honest view. I don't think there's any criticism should be levelled at anybody, to be honest.
Can I mean, so Vic has just stolen my thunder in terms of that. Can I just actually also say that there is current budget levels there. When it's an expenditure only budget like those top two are, we do very well to keep ourselves within budget. And in actual fact, the difference between what we're talking about with VE Day and D-Day is exactly that. As a council, you set a budget of £1,300 for D-Day, and as Alan's just reflected in a previous, we outspent that by £1.
Right.
We have nothing to work to VE Day at the moment, and that's what's holding us up. I've got entertainment on hold that I can book tomorrow if you give me the opening of the budget, but I can't.
Alan and then Mark.
I think just from an officer's perspective, I mean, the challenge is, you know, if you have a look at what we spent on civic events this year, it's £3,600, which is not very much. You know, so if we plan to do a VE Day by that, the question becomes, do we take some money out of the town events, which there's quite a substantial budget of 12,000, and actually do it that way? Because I think it has to be we have to have a guideline. Is it a £10,000 event? Is it a £15,000 event? Or is it a £5,000 event? And budgeting also works, you know, that's a little bit of the chicken and egg situation. But I have to have some guidance as to how much do we need to find, because then we have to find it somewhere else, you know, and we can find it somewhere else if need be. You know, I mean, we've got to achieve something, but I just need a guide. I can't, you know, I feel putting £3,600 into the budget, well, then we're talking about an afternoon event, you know, if you're lucky. That's what we're talking about. So it would be interesting to hear, do you want an option of both? Do you want a contingency amount? Because, I mean, the budget only gets approved in January. If we start with a big event, £10,000 or whatever it is, and that we can build that in. We might not be able to afford it, but, you know, we can't make that decision now. But again, we don't have aspirations. There's nothing to motivate me to help find that money or look at different ways of funding it. So I don't know if that helps in the conversation a little bit.
Matt.
Well, it actually does, actually. That's kind of my point. It was a 2-pointer. One was going to be, why can't we just look at last year's and do an average of previous large-scale events and work off of that set amount? And then the point you made, which was good, why can't we just give a number, give a 10, aim for a 10, and if we get less, we deal with it. But I think the consensus is for things like VE and VJ, we want to go bigger than smaller because it's the right thing to do, but 2, we don't need to give anyone a stick to beat us with, and doing a small scale event is going to break us across the coals. I'd rather us aim big, I was going to say prophesize, but allocate a potential amount of X, Y, Z, and then if we have to chop things off at a later date, we have to chop things off. I'd rather set and go bigger and start planning and get things provisionally booked in and stuff. We can start booking things in and paying for deposits in an amount that we know for a fact we're going to get. I mean, a large scale event, what are we normally talking?
I mean, the Christmas lights, which are probably our largest event.
3.5.
3.5 grand, you know. So if you're looking at £5 grand or 7,500, that enables you to do quite a substantial event. You know, I mean, we have to organise for Christmas lights, we have to organise security, we have to organise health and safety, first aid, etc. So those are the costs that have been funded for that, and some entertainment. So if we had to sit down and say, you know, 95,000, 7,500, that's a starting point. And then I think progress would be, sorry, for me. I think more progress would actually be made in terms of moving it towards getting some form of action plan that we can present to the committee and just liaise with the working group in between. So by the end of December, set a deadline. By the end of December, that budget's going to be finalised, because I think we should be able to do that, and an action plan to guide the officers, and we can work together in supporting the working group doing that.
Yeah, because if we can ballpark and then go a little bit over, we know we can put on a large event for 3.5, for example, we should be okay to go with that. I'm not saying like, let's put 25 grand on this. You know, we're only going a few thousand more than what we already know we can do and we're probably going to get.
I wonder if it's worth me just going quickly over what our actual thoughts were for VE Day.
We are going to cover that
later.
in
We're
a,
going to do it like, yeah. I do apologise that we haven't got anything ready to give and show and all that, but we've been a bit tied up, you know, so.
The item we have to approve the programme of events for this year. Are the committee happy to approve the programme of events?
Is that with the amendment of dropping it down to 3 events and VE?
I think we do need it last year.
Sorry, just a quick question to clarify, is it should be mayoral civic reception is on 6th of June. Remember we mentioned that we're doing, if I'm mayor next year, about the civic reception, trying to aim for the event to be around the 4th of July. Is that still possible or is it this weekend?
So to be honest, Carla, we've just put in a date, which is roughly when.
I'm just trying to
the
watch if it can be worked around your date.
Yeah, no, it's not fixed. It's entirely up to the men. Chris actually moved it several weeks ahead of our usual. So I've just put it, for the sake of the report, I'll put it
Just
roughly.
temporary, yeah, that's what I was wondering, it's a temporary date and then we can work around it.
Down to the men,
Yeah, that's fine, so I know.
So if we approve, but take out one of the.
There's only 3, it's written with the 3 in it. We don't need to change it.
Yeah, so we don't need to change it, do we? Okay, so are the committee happy to approve the programme of events?
Yep. Yes.
Going forward, so can we have a proposal and seconder for that, please? Stuart proposed and Carla seconded. Okay,
So could I also just add, because I've just seen the recommendations on this agenda item and recommendation number 3, can I just also confirm that committee did discuss the fact that we didn't want to have these risky partnership events going forward, and that has already been taken on board and we've not planned any of those. So the issue there, I think this is Alan's report, the issue there is that we wouldn't be doing those. So you can be assured that we're not going to take those risks with those kind of events.
yeah, the events we.
Yeah.
Approve of those ones, okay.
Do you do all 3 recommendations at once?
Sorry, I was going to say, are we doing all 3 at once? Can I ask a question about the second recommendation?
Yeah,
Because I feel like we discussed a bit the outline, I sort of get where we are on that, but the second one, to confirm the procedure for the community and commercial events, I feel like we discussed that.
So when I was doing my financial report, we just discussed it a little bit, so. Cool. I talked about a new procedure, I think there was some questions from the councillors, we talked about a new procedure.
yeah,
And this is really, it's just to formalise that procedure and say, you know, these events have to be subject to first of all, to town clerk scrutiny and then to committee scrutiny.
Clarifying.
So that's what item 2.
and yeah, that there won't be any partnership events, I thought, yeah, we had already said that, yeah.
So you're going to do all proposals 3?
Can I have a really, really dumb question before we move on and embarrass myself? What is summer fun? Is that the continental market?
No,
And what's summer fun?
it literally is just a working title for whatever we classify as our summer town
Oh,
event.
fine,
So
okay.
this year was all Crofton Perry, the year before was Seaside Special, that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
okay.
So for the argument.
An umbrella term.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry, as you were.
Okay, so right. So are you happy then to propose and second for all 3 recommendations?
At the same
Yeah,
time.
at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank
The
you.
proposal was,
Proposal was Stuart and Carla seconded.
great, thank you.
Okay, right. 40424, this is BE and BJ, their 80th anniversary. I know Vic's not, is there things you want to add, Matt?
So I think really it's, if we look at a vision of what we wanted. Now, there was a couple of options. We do something in the town which limits us with crowd numbers, or we do something on one of the pieces of ground we own. And that's why we looked at Melford Common. If you imagine looking at the bottom of Melford Common towards the old bridge, that bottom piece would be a car park. The road that divides it would be the limit of the display area, and along that would be a stage. And what we were looking at for that was the back of a curtain cider, really. We also talked about, as you look down there, and the reason I say look down there, it is slightly stepped as you go up, so it is a kind of natural viewing platform, is that we've got the stage, the possibility of having a large screen to one side, because a lot of things that we didn't do this year, we could do, which is in between acts or dead periods, we can have visual displays of Thetford in the past, talking heads, you know, a little bit like what Kate did with the veteran, that kind of thing, to fill the space. And then on the right-hand side, food stalls next to the road, and on the left-hand side, vintage vehicles, with the top right up towards the Black Horse being left aside for the possibility of a fun fair. So that's what we were looking. It's an afternoon picnic event, really. So it's not going to go into the evening, and that's exactly our vision of it. There's some more detail on the paper there. I think that's about it, David, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Any comments, questions?
That's really good. My only slight concern really is stewarding. You've got 700 quid here for security. Is that going to be enough? That's my concern. Guiding people about, having people on car park duty, that sort of stuff. Soon needs a lot of people. That's just a concern that immediately struck me. Overall,
No, we talked about car parking similar to how the Charles Burrell did it for its open days by using the cadets. We thought that would be quite a good thing. They were actually very good at it, and you know, I did try and park somewhere that they didn't want me to, and I soon get told off. So, you know, that was great. The security side of things was really about looking after what was on at the bottom of the show, and of course we've got whatever the fun fair event is at the top, but we've also got things like toilets. We know we've got Castle Park, but that would not be enough, so we know we'd have to bring some in. So there were those other costs that we considered, but actually when you boil the whole town down, there isn't anywhere where you could do that unless you go at the other end, you know, which is even bigger, even more difficult to fulfill. So that was the reason we thought of this.
Any other comments, questions? Matt?
Request, and feel free to shut down. And it sounds really simple, but can we have a sign made? A sign made, like a banner or something, because all I'm picturing is loads of wonderful stuff on the square, and everyone walking around going, oh, what's that for? Do we actually have anything that's going to say, that we're going to put up to say why we are doing all this? To make it very obvious.
Like VE Day or
Anything. Yeah, a banner or something, because the Remembrance Parade, I know everyone knows what Remembrance is, but we had the poppy wall, very obvious why we are all on the front square, what we're going on. Otherwise, people are going to walk past and say, oh, council's put a merry-go-round on, how lovely. You know, we are making an obvious deal and a show. Can we have something up somewhere? Use the scaffolding. Hopefully it won't be there, but hey, stick a banner on it.
Yeah.
You know, just something that the date, what it is, incredibly obvious. We are Thetford Town Council in the top right and underneath EJ Day, VE Day, whatever it is with the dates, the calendar, but something to show that the reason why we are doing it. I feel like we've just put an event on.
Yeah, true. Violet.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where you've got to if you're thinking on who the performers and the headline act might be.
So we've got the USAC girls. David's got some. I'm not saying that David's got a load of girls lined up, but we've got some acts that we thought of, and it was going to be a very wartime sort of tribute-y stuff. Anyway, it was always going to be that. We've also spoke to the dance group. They got Ciroc, but we were looking for something like Lindy Hop. So we did ask Mildenhall, and they said they're going to get back to us. remembrance has got in the way, but it was that kind of feel. And what we really wanted was the ability to not only have a stage, but have people to come out and interact and be involved in the crowd and get people doing stuff. I'll give you an example. I went to a fireworks display at Hevingham Hall last weekend. Massive, great affair, incredibly well organised. They had Hoosiers on, huge bonfire, fireworks, all. In amongst it, they had one group of people just playing drums, all dressed up, a bit weird. And it was one of the biggest crowd attractions. It was like the Pied Piper at Hamelin, and people were following them around. So I think we thought that actually having something that's immersive or, would be really good. So it's anything like that. And of course, things like Dad's Army and that, lend itself to that kind of thing. Historic vehicle clubs that we know of that would be happy to fill up some of the site, not necessarily all military stuff, but period vehicles to dress it up.
Yes,
If we take what's being proposed and its officers start developing this a little bit more and ask the working group to meet sometime in December so we can have a formal kind of presentation back to this committee with the action plans, a little bit more specific dates and everything else, would the committee be happy with that as a next step forward?
Yeah. That sounds probably like good to these.
is there anything that you need the committee to do in order to...
I think as a working group question is, are you happy with the overall feel of it? And if you are, can we just get on with it? And we really need a date given to us when we say we want to know that whether it's booked by then or... Because otherwise it will drift on. We need a little bit of direction as much as we'd like some answers.
Yeah.
I think you've got to get these things booked sooner rather than later. And, if we can give you that guidance now and comfortably sit there to say, well, get those performers booked in, because the last thing I want to do is lose out on some of the performers.
And that was a key thought of ours. So back to what B said, really, some of these acts are going to be booked up now, a bit like booking Remembrance. They're already thinking of what they're going to be doing. So, we need to do it this side of Christmas. Mm-hmm.
So can I just get a bit of clarity in terms of what you see on the chart there? That's over the budget that we have for our total town events budget, just for VE Day. So you are happy to spend that kind of money to logistically deliver VE Day at Melford Common? I'm sure we can, we're talking to people now, I'm sure we can screw down the 5,500 per performers. That's just to sort of give us a little bit of wiggle space, because VE Day, Terry's right, it's happening all over the country. It's a bit like New Year's Eve, and you ask a disco to perform, they'll double their prices because everybody wants a disco on New Year's Eve. It's the same with VE Day, so it's going to be expensive, but we can probably start looking at different options. But you're talking about, well, what's up there already, and we've still got technical support and Vic is investigating the stage lorry. I don't know whether there's going to be a cost to that. It's already over £12,000.
This is the big event that you're actually talking about. So if we start there, we might have to scale it back, but at least we've got a starting point to get an action plan out, and I think that's really...
The only other thing I would say is I was looking at trying to offer up an alternative, which would be to have sort of venue events, marketplace events and things like that, and scale it down, but have something going on. And I noticed in the Carnegie on the Friday night, the Dad's Army Appreciation Society are in either the Carnegie or the Guildhall. And that's because at this time of year, there's a lot of visitors that come into town to visit Dad's Army in Bressingham. So there is going to be a lot of outside visitors that will probably come to this event. My worry is that when we've done Jubilees, for instance, the musical genres can span decades and appeal to lots of people. This is very niche. if you don't like 1940s music, you're going to get bored within half an hour. Although Matt has told you about all the other attractions that people like to see, like vehicles and things like that. So it's a big ask to invest that sort of money in the one event.
Yeah, I understand your concern, David, but at the same time, I think we've indicated that we want to go bigger on something that is nationally important. If we don't do it, then our community will say, well, Thetford haven't done much for it. Yeah, I think, Terry's saying we've known about this thing for a while. It is of importance to us. So I think we need to aim high.
With the intent to maybe save where we can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you looking at generating some income from it as well?
Yeah, there is opportunities.
Yeah, there are opportunities, but it's not
Can't.
I'm going to cover much of it.
I mean, we're thinking about taking one of the TTC marquees up to Melker Common and having a beer tent. I mean, a lot of the food vendors, we can, not charge ridiculously low pitch fees. They're used to paying better, so we can generate.
Yeah, but we can't guarantee that.
We can't guarantee that.
Right, so are we happy then for a way forward?
We'll report back in December. Or January.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's going to be the way forward. Yeah, is everyone happy with that? Yeah, good. Okay, 40524, Thetford Community Festival. Holly, you have an update for us?
A little bit. The paper that I sent out was very early on. It was actually before most of the meetings that I had to try to organize this and get this off the ground, getting a more of a final plan for it. The idea is to, conciliate the fact that if I may next year and, being someone that represents a lot of different communities, different multiculturality and all those things that I don't need to repeat because they're obvious, is to actually make the most and bring footfall and bring visitors and, get people to have some fun and to actually get people in, attract people to town. So under that principle, bringing the big community together and attracting visitors and movement to town, I decided to put on this sort of a festival, a community event per se. I initially mentioned to Dave and a few of the others that ideally this would be done on the weekend of the 5th and 6th of July. That's it'll be well into my mayorship, and it is a time of the year where, fingers crossed, the weather should be good. And would be a mix of an open festival for the most part with some elements that can be done indoors. Now, the generic of it is to have 2 days with different activities with a lot of different organizations involved. And I mean a lot, I mean quite a lot. And I've spoken to some of them, and there's still quite some of them that I'm going to be talking to them throughout this month. Starting by the top, one of the first ones that I spoke was the Norfolk County Council. And that's because they have a little grant program going on at the moment that's helping people footfall to towns through the Love Norfolk Fund. It is only 2K, it's not very much, it covers any overheads. But when I presented to them, to the panel, it was evident that the money was good, it was great, but that's not what I was seeking there by presenting them the project. What I was seeking was the actual endorsement by facilitating any issues, whether it was with licenses to make this event, with marketing, the social medias and different channels to publicize the event to actually attract the people and get that footfall into town. There was members of Reckland Council there as well. I am due to meet with Reckland Council, so I wasn't able to meet before this meeting, but this will happen throughout the rest of November and start in December. Because County Council and a few of the others did say, okay, if we're going to look for funds, supporting kind of funds in license, etc., Reckland Council is the entity to do so. So I was going to have a good sit with them and see how they can support us. Now, they also can help with the money. And it became clear for me throughout all of this meeting before is that we as a Thetford Town Council, we don't have any money left. So this is no news to me. This is not exactly what I'm seeking here. So what I really want is to make sure that the town gets involved, is part of it and benefits from it. Because living and may have been local, this is what it's all about. we don't have the money, at least there's got to be some way that in kind or with certain collaboration that we can get this off the ground. Now, I do have the support of some institutions besides the local ones like the county and district, etc. For example, through my links with different communities, I have a good relationship, and I'm in the board of the embassy and consulate for the Portuguese communities in London. One thing that they've been offering to me all along is that they have a subsidy, like a grant that is annual for the Portuguese communities to put anything that promotes connection, culture, music, whatever they have to do with community, for community to celebrate their backgrounds, etc. That pot is there. Because I also have a charity outside of my council role, there was a lot of opportunities for me to claim this money. I never did, particularly when I became a councillor, and then it became evident to me that I could have become deputy mayor. I thought, let's hold it there because the right time will come. And if I'm going to get this money, I'm going to put it to good use. For them, it's a plus. I'm a figure representing the community for them, the political I am in, and they do have the money to support me in doing this. So the application window is now. I'm literally working on the work. I submitted the expression of interest. I'm working on the bidding. I don't have a problem with this grant because, like I said, the money's been there for me to take for quite a while. So it's pre-approved. But it's a process, apply until December, get a reply in the early start of the year, and then the money will be paid on or off before July. So sometime May, June is when the money comes in to be able to do these things. But that's not an issue. I'm aiming for something, this cross on the order of minimum £15,000 from them, if not 20,000. And that's not a big ask. That is a small portion from what I could ask them, especially if I'm going to do a big event that has a little bit of ripple effect afterwards, which I can justify on the impact reports afterwards. But that's my bit of the work on the side. So I get the cash from them. I spoke to other institutions, the Brazilian consulate, etc., about other resources, not only about the money. Obviously, what we need performers, we need dancers, music, all sorts of things. And obviously the grants alone are not going to be enough. There's going to be a degree of sponsorship. So in order to get that together, I'm going to be talking to a lot of companies for sponsorship and everything. Those funders for that event hopefully coming through that sponsorship, corporate sponsorship from local companies. Why not? I think it's only right that they get involved and help us out. So hopefully I'll get this extra support on top of what we're already doing and the funds that I pretty much have lined up for this from the different authorities. As a working group, obviously I'm going to be mayor, so I'm sort of leading, but I also run a charity. So we first had a conversation with a few people about how would be the right way to go about this. Fortunately, I have some of my colleagues from the council, other councillors that are keen to work with me, and it's great because I told them I need all the help I can get, and obviously it's going to be a group effort for the town's benefit. I can sort of, make those links and liaison with the embassies and all those, the other funders and the other institutions, but it's good to have a local working group that can get this project off the ground. So there's a few people that are already showing the interest. We're going to form a committee and on the process of doing the paperwork just to make it a little bit more official, even because of, bank accounts and payments got to be transferred, obviously. So we're taking care of the constitutional side of the paperwork of the project. We don't have a lot of time, I understand that. But it has to be done around spring this year because that's when the money is lined up. And if I'm going to bring the money to do the event in Thetford rather than take it to do something somewhere else, I need to come up with something, and I need to make sure the event happens this year around this time of the year to make sure that happens in Thetford and the money comes to us as a town rather than, either going to me or somebody else that does something somewhere else with this way. So the money is there, I might as well use it. That's the way I see it. So I've spoke to countless groups. One of the ones that will collaborate with us, and I'm yet to meet with them to define how and how much, what kind of collaboration we're going to have, is the Essex Cultural Association. They're the ones usually organize the Punjab Festival here in Thetford. They're well known for that festival, and they do very well. Very popular, colorful festival. We had a very brief conversation. There's two options up in the air. Is either merge our festival with the Punjab and make it one large festival, or no, we'll keep it separately because they do it more in the middle of the summer, which is a different time of the year-ish. And just to bring a good element of their performances and the dance groups to be part of this one with us. There's also a possibility of merging funds to put on those activities because they do get funded by the Council, Arts Council and a few others. So this is something I'm going to talk to them about. It's hard talking about fixed numbers now because I need to have these conversations with these groups to know who's going to do what and how much they're going to chip in. Once we have that defined, who's doing what, how much it's going to cost, and who's willing to pay for what, then I can have a sort of breakdown on the budget. But in reality, it's not so relevant here for the council. This is not what the proposal is about because, yeah, we don't have money for extra festivals. We're trying to cut down costs. Agreed, understood. I voted for it. Not a problem. What I really need is the support with the licensing, the grants to be able to put this event, and some of the facilities. Now, another one that is going to be in the committee is Larry Gray, well known for his fanfare. Larry's got the benefit of already doing this a lot of times and already sort of knowing his way around the Korean event. It comes with the other bonus that he already has the connections for hiring toilets, discounted prices, finding better deals. And he's very keen to help in everything he can. So I think for us as a group and for this event, there'll be a bigger input or a bigger contribution from Larry from the financial side towards helping us out get this off the ground rather than him just doing it for his gain, as usually is. Yes, you might still gain something, but that's not his primary concern. I'm very fortunate I have a good relationship with him and he's willing to support us. And if that means earning less for being able to contribute with the licenses and toilets and everything, he'll do that. So this is one meeting I have to get done between November and December. I will have something more definitely by the end of mid-December, I would say, because I still am going to meet with the directors, meeting with Larry and with the committee. And then I'll have a more project lined up of activities and costs. I have gazillion institutions that can come on board. Some of them are free, which is what we need, it's cost less. For example, the music project, which I sit on the board, they will come in and perform. There will be other groups that are going to perform at no cost to us, or only the cost of logistics, like, for example, the transport, reasonable cost to come on the day, but not for the performance themselves, from different nationalities, different groups. I spoke to the Polish school, they're looking into what they can do. Greco is going to talk with their team from Homes from Ukraine, which is that kind of program. They have an association based in Durham. It's going to talk to them to see how they can come in and put on a performance to be part of it. I mentioned the bone job. I'm going to reach out, and this is a bit of a stretch, but fingers crossed. Reach out to the boroughs of East London. Now we have the Overspill and a big historical link there, and there's still elements of that sort of cultural link there for the local, especially in Garden State and everything. Second, third generation people still feel those links to London. And what I'm going to try to do is see if I can link up with them, get a little bit of collaboration and support. It doesn't necessarily need to be money, but certainly they can, if not nothing else, they can send us a few performers or a few things over that can fill up the festival. And the more we get at cost-free, the better for us. The more we can do without, straining ourselves. I spoke to Light Cinema, got a great relationship with George, the manager. They're willing to put a little film festival with with the multicultural elements, like a foreign film festival throughout their weekend, making special sessions. We are lucky that we're going to have some films being provided, especially through the embassy in Brazil. So we have got Brazilian movies that are going to be, and subtitles, but different films from different nationalities. And he did mention that he can either put a little bit of a film fest outside on the riverside, same way they do summer events, because usually hires a large screen and you can put there, screen some movies there on the open, and that's great if the weather's good. If not, they'll use the rooms inside and you can screen those movies throughout the Saturday and Sunday. Some of my colleagues, which as soon as we film, I don't want to mention names just until I firm the whole constitution. Once we all sign the paper, I know exactly for sure who's on the paper. I know there's some people around the table that's going to be in it. Once we have the defined committee, I will supply a copy to the council for the council to, for everybody to see. But fortunately, through some links from the committee, we're going to be able to talk to to the museums, especially steam museum. It'd be great if they could put a steam museum, a steam engine on the marketplace or something like that. Even if not necessarily Saturday and Sunday, maybe on Saturday or afternoon, or maybe on Sunday for a little while, just to kind of fill in the town and give us different locations of different events taking place and different activities taking place in town throughout the 2 days. The idea is to have something always going on, not necessarily in the same place, but say we do this event and the stage and the performances on Thetford Common, besides the fair. Or because the fun fair is there and there's no way, so perhaps we take this to the Riverside. I talked to Brecon, put the main performances on Riverside, which is also a possibility. We're trying to work out the best location. Because Riverside is Brecon's council license. If it's not for common, it's Thetford Town, it's us. So that's the kind of support with getting the paperwork and getting those risk assessments. I might be able to get some sponsorship and some support in kind with the medics, the security team, maybe. Marketing, etc. Like I said, it will become through sponsorship from corporate entities in town, but certainly through the county council and the Brecon Council. The schools, we're going to try and run a little bit of a competition. If they come along and get a prize on the day, is a way of the kids come out of the house. If the kids come out of the house, the parents come. By extension, is a way of getting people to the festival, get people outside doing something, actually being part of it, getting people outdoors, basically. I will be, obviously putting through the channels, media, whether it's news, newspapers, and radio channels throughout and outside of this venue, obviously, because I have those connections, I'm able to publicize this and bring some people in for the event. I think I covered the most of it, but if there's any questions, I'm sure there will be. Please tell me, because it's a lot, and I have done half of the work and I still have to go. It is a lot. Go on then. Yeah. Viola.
Trying to get my head around. So you're trying to community events, and has it got like a more sort of European focus?
It's the way I see it is many backgrounds, many nationalities, many cultures, one community, hence the Thetford Community Festival. We're all one community, but we all have different roots, whether it's Londoners or migrants or whatever. But it's to bring all those elements and make sure that there is a festival that caters for everybody, the locals, the hosts, the migrants, etc. So there's elements of different cultures.
So would you have like a sort of Polish hour and then a Portuguese hour?
Yeah, that's the idea. We're going to have performances of different nationalities, languages and cultures and make a program where we can fit them in and having them all sort of lined up. What we think is morning sessions and things, perhaps we do something more family friendly for people with the little children, maybe include schools, performance where the kids can participate, the Thetford Music Project, a few others. The kids will come, it's in good daytime. It's more of a family feeling to it. Towards the end of the day, we can put some music, performances, and something more of a bit of an adult crowd or, young adult crowd, and it's just getting this performance towards the afternoon or towards the end of the day. It's just organized in a way that we can flow the people. We don't necessarily need to have 2,000 people in one go, but if we have 500 to 1,000 at a time per session, or it depends on what's going on, that's for in my books is a win. That's the idea anyways.
So would you be also thinking of the Punjab Festival, what coming from?
I'm going to talk to them. They mentioned we could plan both, but I think that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, because they normally,
they do theirs in August, yeah. So what I think we're going to do is bring...
Sorry, can I just interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Can we bring this back in January? So
we can certainly, by then I'll have numbers in.
Yeah, that would be really good.
I'll have some numbers and.
Sorry to interrupt.
I can talk to you about that.
That's fine.
We are limited time.
That's all right.
No, I was going to sort of check what we needed.
I'm happy to talk to you guys. If you have questions, come to me afterwards, because we're still putting everything on a plan, and then I'll present it to council after. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so maybe you can just note the item now. Is everyone happy to do that? And then we'll pick it up again.
The only thing I need for today is the principal support for the event in principle. From the council with the resources of the grants and maybe the gazebos by many necessary for the event. So is that support in principle?
In January.
Okay, no problem. We'll do that.
Right, okay, so we'll move on to the next thing, which is 40624. Review of the venue hire charges, concessions and booking terms. Over to you.
I think in terms of this particular item, our fees have been quite static for quite a while. For the last few years, they've stayed the same, and our cost inputs have gone up quite significantly. So what I've done in the papers, I've actually put there's two tables. One is our current rate, and I've made reference to that because the decision was taken long ago, I think in 2006 or something, to option this property, these premises for VAT purposes. We actually pay VAT on all our refreshments and our bar sales and our higher fees. So when you look at what we charge, it's all VAT inclusive. So I've taken it out just to make sure it's comparable and we understand what's the real revenue. If you have a look at the table, which is our current fees, some of those fees, because of the concessions in particular, are extremely low. I mean, for the small court, that room, the former old tea room, on a concession rate, Monday to Thursday, it's £4.17 an hour. Our current staff rates are £15 an hour. So you can just see that there's a huge discrepancy. And we just haven't kept up to date with increasing this on a gradual, on a year-by-year basis. I've put and this is David really put this together, and this is the next table, which is comparisons with other venues that offer similar size. We've got venues similar size to what we offer in this premise, and we've got venues similar size to the Carnegie. We've actually just put some comparatives there, and you can see that our rates are quite low, certainly against venue 1 and venue 2. Our rates are pretty low when you look at them. On the third table, we've actually put forward a proposal, an officer's recommendation. And again, it's one of these things that it's very difficult to catch. We can't increase our rates hugely, but we'd rather put in place a system where we can actually, over time, get our rates and keep them increasing with inflation, because I think that's really what's happened to us going forward. The other thing that we've really been thinking about as officers is that it doesn't cost very much to caretake, say, Monday to Friday during office hours, because we've got cameras, we've got CCTV, we've got someone in the offices. We can keep an eye on it, and we're not employing additional staff. Where the challenge comes is that on a weekend and after hours, we are employing staff typically to come in, and when you're paying £15 an hour, you've got to recover quite a significant amount in your tariff to cover that and any other costs. The utility costs have to be added, etc. So what we've done is we've actually put a proposal there. But fundamental to this is to change concessions. At the moment, concessions are given to organisations, so even private sector organisations that pay 3 months in advance. Why we do that, I have no idea. It doesn't make sense to me, but it doesn't have to, because I'm not the council. People sitting in front of me are. But what we're trying to do is phase out the concessions. The concessions are only to charitable organisations or constituted community groups. If you're an organisation and you want to book 3 months in advance, well, if you want to secure your commercial activities, you've got to book it, pay the amount of money in advance to secure that. Whether you want to take the risk and pay 1 month in advance, 2 months in advance, or 3 months. But to offer an incentive to do that really does have an impact on our kind of revenue potential. The last thing that we've talked about is to ensure that these things never fall off the agenda, to kind of give the officers a mandate that fees will go up every year by 5%, unless this committee decides otherwise. So if the paper comes to this committee and says all our costs have gone up by 10%, whatever the case may be, but just to have it kind of built in that there is an annual increase that's there, even if this committee for some reason can't meet, whatever the case may be, we implement that particular charge. So the 4 recommendations is to look at the proposed charges. The second one is to restrict concessions to registered charities and constituted organisations. Thirdly, to eliminate concessions after 5 p.m, because that's when we're paying additional staff to caretake, and that on an annual basis, venue fees increase by 5% unless this committee decides otherwise. So those are the recommendations that we've made.
Matt, and then Matt.
In my opinion, yes to all 4. nice and easy. The special thank you for the comparison rates as well. That's incredibly helpful. And also, thank you for making them whole numbers. All this £17.63 an hour. It's ridiculous. Thank you for just, a flat 20. It's lovely. Absolutely yes, after 5 for staffing reasons. And I think it's fine for the charities and the community groups. What was your fourth one? The increase, yeah. Yeah,
Every year.
I blanket support.
Every year.
Yeah, I blanket support them. Been overdue.
I was just going to say exactly the same. Yes to everything. It does feel like sometimes we're stuck in a bit of a loop in this council. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about, rates that we're paying in here or IT systems that we haven't updated. It always seems that we're all of a sudden presented with a problem because we haven't done something in the past. I think by putting the rates up to a reasonable amount, which they all are, and then having those incremental rises screwed into what we're going to do in the future, I think it saves us and whoever follows us an awful lot of angst in the future. So thank you.
Terry, then Violet.
Well, I'm not going to buck the trend. I'm going to say yes to all. I think the council only having incorporated bodies with a constitution is very important. I also think it matches up with what we do when we're giving out grants. So if we standardise that the people we work with have to be incorporated, have to have a constitution, I think that's a good metric to have across the board when we're dealing with people. And I think they should pay to use council facilities. If, for example, one of those groups is, say, I'm thinking off the top of my head, singing at Mermaking or something, we have to either pay them for it or put it out to tender. So it's a fair and honest process rather than them just getting the gig and that sort of stuff. So again, it's about process, I think. The other thing I would ask, really, the writers group, we help them out.
I think you've jumped to the next agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Next. Violet.
Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to ask about 5%. I wonder whether we should instead tie it to inflation, just, in case obviously prices rise more than 5%, which could happen, or obviously if there's no inflation, which seems unlikely, we might be a bit unpopular if we're suddenly putting our prices up. We wouldn't want to kind of alienate anyone because of that. So would it be better to do it that way? I'm sure you've discussed this and thought about this.
I think it was really just a matter of having an increase. And if inflation was pretty high, one thing that we are going to do is we're actually going to move to more activity-based costing. So therefore we will see what the cost of the venues are, because we're going to have the cost of electricity, the staff and everything else allocated to them. So that's going to drive that particular discussion. But it's just to make sure that if this committee, for example, when we come to the budget and we know that inflation is less than 5%, we still bring up the tariffs by 5%. This committee will always have oversight over that. But I think it's really just a matter of the more activity-based costing we do, the more the costs drive home as to how much it does cost us to run this venue. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yep, thanks.
Matt and Carla. Did you say something, Matt?
No, sorry, I was just nodding in absolute agreement. Sorry.
Carla.
I was going to say, I agree with Viola on that point. Rather than standardize on paper at 5%, just leave it an open end that, annual increases will be in line with the inflation, will be decided on a yearly basis. And then we can just on every year on the committee decide how much that increase is going to be in line with whatever inflation is going on in the markets. And then just policies that this year's prices and costs in line with the decision for this year. They can always revise year on year. I think it's better.
Any other comments? No. So, do you want to go through recommendations from the time and get a proposal and second, or do them all together? All together. Okay. So, have we got a proposal for all 4 recommendations, Matt? A seconder, Matt. Good.
I'll find recommendations.
Five.
In terms of conditions to be brought.
Sorry, yeah, in this round.
There's 5, and I didn't speak about the writers group.
And then that's the bit that comes on to the next one.
The next agenda.
Sorry, there's one, the fifth. We'll then.
Fifth one is not going to the next one, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Terms of.
You're absolutely right.
Cool.
Sorry, instead of
Sorry.
page.
Sorry, that was me, I went and scanned it when.
Terms and conditions one.
I
Sorry.
forgot about that one.
That was on a different page for me.
Yeah,
So,
so if you want
so are we okay to put the 5th one on those?
to. Just okay, I'm happy to propose, happy to
Second
second,
that one as well.
and you're happy for the resolution. Brilliant.
Yeah. good.
Sorry about that, that's my fault. It's over the page for me too.
Oops. Right, okay, moving on. 40724, use of Guildhall facilities and council staff time for in-house community groups. Right, everybody has had a report on that. Are there any comments? Terry?
Yes. The writers group.
Yeah,
So not only do they, as far as I'm aware, they don't do anything for us. They do actually do things for other people. So I'm not really sure why we subsidise them to do stuff for other people. And yeah, that's my point, really.
right, so they write. Write content for other magazines beyond the council projects. Do they contribute to council projects as well?
Oh,
Yeah,
Do that.
they do.
in terms of,
So they've written content for plays that we've ticketed and delivered here. They've written content for our school visits programme. So the people that attend voluntarily. They have a passion to write. So they are being taught by Katie as part of a legacy project. Now you can argue whether it's a legacy project or not. They continue their passion in their own time by choosing to write for other entities. How can we control that? It's the volunteers, they're following a passion, they've been taught something, they're really infused and they go off and write for whoever. It's a little bit like the volunteers that attend a conservation group and then go and do someone's garden because they've got a passion for gardening. We can't turn around and say you can't come to the conservation group anymore because now you're doing other people's gardens. I think it's going a little bit too far.
In general, for a whole overview, whilst I do appreciate, these are small groups, they were funded by the Heritage Project is concluded, there's not a lot of money left. I don't think we can start the precedence of offering for free. We have things in place that small grant schemes, I assume all of these have a bank account and a constitution as a group. Then I strongly suggest they go and get them. And we will be happy to support them as a small group, but I don't think we can start because one thing I detest is the what about game, and I'm going to be an absolute hypocrite and play it myself, but where do we draw a line? They are no longer funded by whom they were funded by. They are now just external groups, and that's no criticism to what they've done in the past. Excellent, thank you so much. If you want to become a group, get a constitution. We will more than happily support you with the money we can, but if we're going to do it for one, we open an absolute floodgate for every other group to turn up and say, hang on, they get it for free. We've just put our prices up.
And that's exactly the decision you need to make tonight, man. That's a different proposal. We started this through the NHLF Heritage Fund. That funding finished in December of last year. We continued it as a legacy project because that funding also developed the Guildhall as a Guildhall Heritage Hub. these were considered to be heritage outreach programs. If you as councillors want to stop that now because it's come to the end of the term, that's absolutely fine. Make that decision. But you can't make inferences about people's concerns outside that group because that's unfair.
Carla?
I'm just going to give with my 2 pence worth, and that's just my opinion. Each one, I don't know, I'm sure. I'm all in favor of grassroots projects. I do community work, I run a charity locally. I know how hard it is for small groups that want to do activities, sometimes to either have the paperwork or having somebody that can do the paperwork for them, so have the funds to be able to maintain the groups. The intention is there, the will is there, the positives that come out of it by people coming out, socializing, their well-being, they're all there, they're visible, the impact is visible, but sometimes they lack the structure because they are quite small groups. I know quite a few, whether it's Thetford based here in the Guildhall or across Thetford in different locations. There's many groups in the same boat. I'm an advocate for small groups to survive and to continue their activities. If there's anything we can do to support these groups to stay in house or to find alternatives to continue their activities, I would be all for it. If it's, there's a point, maybe we actually need to be more structured. Perhaps this is something we can help them as a council say, look, that we can help with maybe sourcing the paperwork that you can put together to make it a constitution or open an account, something that can give you some legal status that you can continue to benefit from the councils and from the local authority support. I would prefer, as offering the help for them to structure themselves and to establish the resources and the things they need to continue their work rather than, look, the funding is finished, we can no longer have you, there's no money, you got to go. I'm for one, I'm not in favor of that. I think every group has something to offer, of benefit to the community and for their members. They all take benefits out of it. And I would be supportive of keeping them in-house. Obviously, of course, I understand that. Perhaps we can adjust the system. Because like I said, we have the small grants available. Rather than, give them the concession for the space. Perhaps we can just say, look, let's pay the rental for this year through one application to our small grants. It's not, the money is not going to come in and out. It's just going to be sort of shifted around. It's just the way we word it basically on the paper. But we still continue to give them the kind of support if that's what they need. Also encourage them to apply for other sources of support, because if their funds have run out, this is great as an interim measure, but if they can't sustain themselves forever with free services, perhaps this is allowing one of the officers, somebody that can sit with them and help them apply for the support to continue their activities. But that's just me. I'm sure there are other opinions.
Quick question. When these groups were offered at the very, very start, I think it was quite a while ago, were they told it was with an end date when the money will stop?
No.
I think is one of the things, and again, this is one of the issues that we as officers have to take responsibility for, is that I think the constitution of these bodies and the involvement of these bodies has grown. I found out this year that Thetford Strings was created this year. I was actually town clerk. I had no idea that we all of a sudden started another community group which operated. So I think what we've got is we've got a lack of information about all these activities and what they do and what they don't. My view is very different to David's view. I mean, I've had lots of discussions with the town clerk over this. The town clerk has helped put together this particular paper. But I think it's who is our customer at the end of the day. Our customer is the person walking down the street. That's our resident. And how do we actually enhance that? We have to do community. We have to support community projects. I think that's part of being what a council does. We provide toilets, we provide facilities. But I think it's really a matter of balancing that with who pays for that and how do we get benefit. There's no community outreach, I don't think. I think it's been a very insular group. So I think we need to change the way that we run the community groups. But we do have to understand who's benefiting from it and should the council be paying for it. If some of the my personal view, and I'm sorry for expressing that, please tell me to shut up if I do, but is, you can benefit from these things. Set the singers, do you go join an organisation, do you pay a nominal membership fee, and then you can do that, and that will fund your venue costs and everything else. So there is another model at which it could operate. I just think that the fact that, you know, I have found out how the community groups go this year. In fact, just before the last meeting, and I had a heart attack because I didn't realise that these are all free hires. I actually thought they were hired in events. So that again is just part of the lack of communication, etc. And I'll shut up.
Okay, Stuart, and then go.
Yeah, I think historically, we tried to do more with the Guildhall and to try and get the money. We offered these outreach things to nurture groups, and that succeeded, and they've come forward. What they do offer, you used to talk about who's our customer, but yes, our resident. But our resident has been enriched by their work. You know, the crafting group have done hobbies and knitters, and they're doing, I think at the moment, I think to be famous places of Thetford, and I declare an interest in my wife has recently joined that crafting group, so I know what they're doing. But so it's open to anybody who wants to come along, but it's obviously a certain type of thing on a Wednesday morning. You're not going to get work people, you're going to get more retired ladies to come along to that. But that has offered them a way of giving something back to Thetford as part of that craft group. The singers have performed at numerous town events, including mayor making, and been able to do that. The writers group have given us the VE Day. Some of those writers group supported the narrative that was put there because of the skills they've learned, I think. So the town has been enriched by the projects that are there. Yes, I understand that, you know, there are cost pressures on us all, but I think if you look to start charging them for it, or if you say, right, you've got to have a constitution. We had sex, rock and roll reading. They folded. A lot of that was because they didn't get any funding, because they didn't have the constitution. And they didn't, the people who were involved with that didn't want to get themselves into a committee and do it all formalisation, which is what we're potentially asking these groups to do. And I suspect some of those won't want to formalise it. So maybe is there a way that we can act as an umbrella to support them and go for grants? So whether it be a Guildhall crafts thing, set up with the town council, getting them going along, which then gets that ability to go for an art council bid or a town council bid to then contribute to some of the costs involved. But I think shutting the door straight away is the wrong way to go.
Matt, did you want to say something?
Yes, I do this time. Stuart stole my sandwiches a little bit. I was going to say that we really actively encourage volunteer groups through the town, whether it be, you know, external, you know, all the weeding and they're looking after the town. Can we not do the same with this and then grow those as our own volunteer groups? So, you know, we've set them up as a project and they've gone off and done some stuff for us, but it's not, it seems a little bit, we're lucky as to what we've got out of it. I think if we kind of own it a little bit more, then there is an opportunity where they will have a set constitution because we've done it for them. You know, they can get their grants, and I agree with you. I do think it's valuable to have some things that don't make us a lot of money. What I would say is I'm surprised at how much tea and coffee that group drinks. So,
Wait a minute. Right, we've got Doug, then Matt, then Carla, and then Terry.
I get those points. I think they're very fair, to be honest. One of the things that I was looking at was the recommendation. I go, you know what? I like that there's a thing that they're going to report because actually we don't know what it's doing. As you rightly say, I didn't know good figures that I didn't know what it could do. Reporting, brilliant, but actually, isn't that much fairer to say, okay, let's get involved in it and get them to report, and they go to a report and go, okay, this is what we do, and we'd like some money for it. In which case, that gives us that very clear picture of what they're going to do. Why are they going to use the money if you can therefore make a decision without going, oh, that's nice, they're doing that kind of stuff. You can see, okay, bang, it's on paper. So I kind of favour that method. I do think we may need to consider how to support them in terms of getting a constitution, because I really take your point about we don't want to have barriers and we don't want to make complexity, but it seems to me a logical way to do it. Get them to provide us evidence and then we can give you money and help. That seems to be the way to go.
I'm going to caveat my own point I made earlier. I'm actually going to suggest that maybe we defer this decision to go away and think of some more ideas, because the reason why I am torn on things, in my job, this is the equivalent of a fixed term contract. That contract's up. End of. You don't keep an employee on and start paying them a wage even, you know, when the contract's finished. You start fresh, brand new contract, and then the money's dried up. It's gone. They need to pay. However, very valid points on all sides. I think that's why I want to go away and have a think, because maybe we make a third payment structure, normal hourly rate, concession rate, and then the heritage project rate where they pay a lot less. Maybe we absorb the groups and it becomes Thetford Town Council craft group, Thetford Town Council writers group, Thetford Town Council choir, and we absorb them in-house, and it's more like we're almost putting it on, and we can justify absorbing some of the costs. But I don't think, well, we've already had 3 completely separate ideas on the table. I don't think we're going to get to a consensus where we can vote on it today without going away and genuinely coming back to another meeting and say, this is my proposal, what do you all think? And each of us put a proposal forward. I had my idea of bang on no. I'm still, you know, a harsher way, but you both, Matt and Stuart, have made very good points. We do absolutely need to support the group. I would also request if we can have a more detailed report about what they do, what they support. If there's a justification of, they absolutely are integral to the town. And it's not all about money, as Matt said. We do need to keep these. They do things, but if we can justify, actually, this group does this, and this, then it might actually influence saying, do you know what? Actually, they are absolutely worth absorbing the cost as a council because they provide X, Y, and Z. But right now, 2 bullet points isn't enough to sway me. Still, I'm still going to be quite harsh with it. But I do think we need to go away and come up with proposals to present to the group, because I've heard 3 at this table and we're not going to get a majority to go on any one of them.
No, we're not tonight. Carla, did you just still want to say something? Or would you like us to defer?
Just say Matt's got a good point, and I was going to suggest one of the things we can look at actually is a volunteers division of Thetford Town Council, and that volunteers aggregates all the groups and activities. There are smaller units that are not constituted, say the weaving group, the crafts group, and actually get somebody there that coordinates. One of the officers, or we get somebody in for a few hours a week, or one of the officers take on the role of coordinate, liaising with those groups and integrate them as part of the council, as sort of volunteers of the council if they don't want to be constituted independently, or if they're small to do it, like was the case with the reading group. The other thing is, we're going to put in a bid for the heritage for the buildings. Heritage for the buildings is great, and the buildings need to be kept. The question is, once you have the buildings on nice and pretty, who is the people you're going to serve? You're going to serve the people of Thetford. So you need to build the buildings to be used. And if the buildings need to be used, you need to support the groups that use the buildings. In my perspective, one doesn't go without the other. When you put a bid in to refurbish your buildings, to maintain your structures, you have to consider what's the purpose of those buildings, who's going to use them, what's the benefit to the community. I think we should start looking at those things. Thank you.
So are we agreed then that we should defer this? Yeah.
I think it sounds sensible to me.
Yeah, and then we need a bit more information about what the groups do and the benefits from that. Then we could come back and make, and if committee members have another think about a way of doing this. I must admit, I don't know if it's right, but I'm more in your ballpark, Matt, that I think.
Can I just say one final thing?
You know, it just seems to subsidise a few people and not a lot of people. That would just be my yeah. So,
could I just say one final thing? Because I think as officers we've really muddied the waters here, and I just want to make one final comment. So when it does come back, you are addressing it from the right perspective. As part of our bid, I think what we did wrongly, because I think you're all getting muddled, is we've given these guys labels. They are not a group. They're not an entity. They're just people who turn up. The crafters differ from week to week. I mean, you know, some weeks we have 3, some weeks we have 6 completely different people. It's the same with the singers. The only one I would say out of all of those is the strings. You know, it's just, I don't know really how that came about, but the writers group, the choir, we should have just said it's a community singing group that comes together on a Monday night. It's not an entity. It's not to say that if we decided not to continue, the writers group, for instance, couldn't set up a constituted group called the Thetford Writing Collective or something like that. But at the moment, they are not a group. So we can't go to them and say, the only way you can come back is if you make the content. I mean, what we need to address here is, are we deploying the officers' time in the right way, or has our outreach programs in this context come to an end? So I think you're right, Matt. We just need to say, have we come to an end, or are we going to continue? But if we continue, it will just be a community gathering of people who want to come along and sing. I can't say the person's name, but there's someone that you all know that comes along every now and again and sings just because she fancies singing on a Monday night. But she doesn't come every week. And she's never performed at the Mermaid and all the rest of it, because she just wants to get in the room and just sing her lungs out, but she doesn't want to perform in front of everybody. It literally is a community gathering. But if we come to the end of that because we want to deploy our officer in a different area, that's the decision you need to make. I think we're making more of these entities that don't exist.
Okay, maybe then next time we can have a bit more information so we can make a decision.
We have more detailed report on this meeting.
Yeah, do we need to have a, no, we can just agree that. Yeah. Okay, right, progress on actions from previous meetings. If we can do it really quickly, we've got about 10 minutes.
It is really quickly because all the actions have been, you know, for this one, I can see. I've gone through all the actions that were stated, and if you scroll down to,
Can I just interrupt and say straight away, the one that I noticed, and it's just because I was trying to read it. Action minute reference 16824, educational engagement for schools, educational engagement for schools, committee officer to meet with civic officer to apply that, and then it ends.
Sorry, it's me cutting and pasting an Excel document into a Word document.
I'm sure how to use Excel.
I need lots of training.
But yeah, I'm very confused about what was the final bit on that, what's actually 30.
I'll send an updated.
Okay.
We will update it in the agenda.
Yeah,
So-
okay. Right, thank you. Right, okay, everyone happy with the note those actions?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, committee officers update. An update?
Rector Council have written to us to ask us to apply if we want to get funding for the V and VJ Day, we have to have an application in by the 9th of December. So as officers will just
Yes, please.
look at that.
Yeah.
And it'll take £500 off the cost of that you're talking about earlier. That's the only update that we have. So if the officers can do that, apply for the maximum amount, we'll do that.
Yes, please. Okay. Right, that's it. Thank you very much.
So it's even worse now. Sometimes only 3 come and drink that much.